Hello and welcome to RGU Talk, the official podcast of Robert Gordon University. I'm your host Johnny Milne, and as an RGU alumnus myself, it's a real pleasure to welcome back to the university my fellow journalism graduate, Samantha Leckie. Samantha, thank you so much for coming in.
No problem, thank you very much.
Well, cards on the table to start with. You and I did go to RGU together.
We did.
Far too many years ago now. It was only, 5 years ago?
It feels like longer.
But this isn't a case of favouritism, because in my opinion, out of most of our colleagues, it's safe to say you've taken your degree in journalism the furthest. What is your current job 5 years after graduating?
So at the moment, I am head of features, and that is for the Evening Express and the Evening Telegraph. And I'm also editor of our new Society magazine.
And what does that make a day in the life, or a day in your life with being head of features?
Very busy, for a start. So this is kind of the first time we've really merged departments between two different papers, so with the Evening Express and the Evening Telegraph. So it's been a different experience because obviously no one's ever done it before. But yes, it makes for a very, very busy day. Once a week, I also go to Dundee. And then obviously we launched on the 31st of May our new Society magazine, which is really exciting.
Well, we'll return to the present day in a few moments, but what is it that attracted you to journalism in the first place when you were leaving school?
I think I always knew that I wanted to have a career that involved people. I think I'm a people person, and I think you really, really have to be a people person to do journalism. So that kind of attracted me in the first instance. And then I've always enjoyed English. I've always enjoyed writing. I find it really therapeutic. So that was obviously a win.
A big one, yeah.
Yeah. So I think I came along and I heard Andrew Jones talk about the course, and I just remember sitting there and thinking, yep, this is ticking all the boxes for me.
And what were your first thoughts about RGU, aside from Andrew selling the course to you?
The university itself, I loved. I have so many good memories here. It was probably I can honestly say, I know people say this about university, but it really was the best years of my life, because you just meet so many new people. And I think it's nice when you come from school into university, and I remember enjoying being treated like an adult for the first time.
Absolutely, yeah.
But yeah, no, so I have good fond memories of RGU.
Well, speaking of your fond memories, obviously, you studied things like broadcasting, media law, news writing, features, which is pretty useful at the moment, among much, much more. But looking back, what are some of your fondest memories of your time here?
Okay, well, obviously meeting you, Johnny.
Oh, don't you make me blush.
No, like I say, you meet lots of new friends, so that's really, really nice. But I mean, I feel like a bit of a geek saying this, but I really did love uni. I absolutely, I don't think, apart from, I think I found media law quite tricky. As many of us did, I think. Yep. But I absolutely loved all the modules. I just find them so fun. And what's great with journalism is that you're not just sitting in a lecture. Right from the get-go, the first year, you're out and you are doing vox pops on the street with people and recording for radio. And then of course there's the TV studio and the radio studio in RGU itself. So it's, you do a lot. You do like writing and have your dissertation and whatnot, but it's a really practical course.
And in terms of that practicality, how do you think your time at university set you up for the career you'd go on to do?
It was definitely a big help. It gave me a really good grounding in journalism. Andrew and John were my lecturers at the time, obviously, as you know, yeah. And they were brilliant. I found that they gave you a good grounding, but for me personally, the one thing that they both drummed into me was that you really need to get work experience. And so that is what I did. I went and got work experience, and without that, I wouldn't be in the job that I'm in today.
And in terms of that work experience, obviously you were a student at the time, busy socialising and exams, but what work experience did you get, and how did you get set up at Aberdeen Journals?
Okay, so the first work experience I did do was at the Evening Express. Again, that was just John and Andrew drumming it into me. So I went away and I wrote to the Evening Express, and Craig Walker, who's now the editor of the Evening Express, he phoned me and kind of gave me a mini interview over the phone. And then I just went in for a week, because they're still like this today, really happy to take lots of people in for work experience. We do it all the time. And I loved it. And I kind of just kept going back. I did do a little bit of work experience at STV as well, and really, really enjoyed that. But I think my my heart was with the EE.
And you've stayed pretty much since.
Yep.
Was it all smooth sailing, transitioning into a full-time career after university?
So it's a bit of a funny story, actually, because I think I was in second or third year, and I'd done work experience quite a few times at the Evening Express. And I actually got offered a job. They asked me to go on board with them full time, and I was super excited, but I said no, because I really, really wanted to finish my studies here. I loved my course. I didn't want to give it up. So then a little time went past, and they actually offered me a job again. But I was nearly finished. Well, I think I was in third year by this point, and I said no again, which was really terrifying to say no twice to someone that you obviously want to work for.
Not knowing you get a third chance.
Yeah, I kind of thought, oh no, are they going to give me are they going to actually take me seriously the next time, if there was a next time? So I said no, but what I did say was, can I come in once a week and just do work experience once a week on one of the days that I don't have uni? And they said yes. And so I did that for a good wee while, coming in once a week. And then I think we were just about to finish fourth year, and Craig took me aside and he said, look, I know you're not going to leave uni, so I'm not even going to ask. And he said, would you start with us part-time and then hopefully transition full-time with us? And so that's what I did.
And now that, obviously you've had a few roles at the paper since then, can you lay out what took you from working part-time to head of features and editor of Society?
Yeah, so I started out, it's funny, I've gone full circle, because I did start out as a features writer. I split my time. I was a features writer and I did news reporting as well.
Okay. Loved
both. But I'm pretty competitive. And so I got a real taste for the news side of it, and I ended up going full time as a full time news reporter. I loved that. During my time as being a reporter, it was quite good as well, because I got extra responsibility. We launched a South edition of the Evening Express that covered, I think it was from Portlethen down to Montrose. Okay. And so when we launched that, I kind of got to take the lead on that, and that was my first little taste of management, because they let me take stories from the reporters that were also working on the edition, and I would go into conference and pitch them to the editor every day. Okay. So that was my first kind of taster. And then, sorry, I feel it's very long-winded. I've done quite a few things there.
No, not at all.
And then after that, I moved on to the news desk itself, and I was managing the reporters, which was a really challenging role, but it was really thrilling, because you got the paper, it never goes without a blank page, so you did it every day. And then for a brief period I was head of planning, and that involved so we've got the Evening Express Retailer Awards. I did a lot of planning with that, planning supplements. And then it was April this year that it brought me I came in to be head of features.
And it shows that, if you don't mind me saying that, you've got a degree in journalism, but that doesn't mean you're just going to be writing for the rest of your life. You've got all these different things you've tried your hand at. Have you worked on any stories in particular that stick out to you, whether that's on the news side or the feature side?
So the first one that probably pops into my mind is I did a story at Christmas time one year on a little boy called Ashton. Don't know if you're familiar with that one.
I am, yes.
Yes. So it was a wee boy, and he has a heart condition. And so he's kind of always stuck with me. I still kind of keep up to date with what's going on with him. I still have his mum on Facebook and things like that, so I still see what he's up to. But that really stuck with me because that got a big reaction when that story went out. Initially, Shanna, his mum, just wanted to raise awareness of his condition. But in the end, it kind of went crazy because he had like a bucket list of things he wanted to do, and we ended up making some of those come true. He got to meet Ollie Murs off the back of it, so I think that's the one that really sticks out the most.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's an amazing example. Well, we've mentioned Society magazine a couple of times, so obviously that's got to be one of your biggest achievements so far in your career. How did all of that come about?
So Society magazine came about because we basically recognised that there was a real gap in the market for a lifestyle magazine in Aberdeen, with features on, we cover food, drink, fashion, beauty, home and interiors, music, theatre, the lot. And yeah, we recognised there was a gap in the market, and we decided to just go for it, and we built it up from scratch. That's all started. We started kind of in March sort of time, deciding what we wanted to do with it and where we were going to take it. And yeah, it's just it's gone a bit mental.
In a good way.
In a good way, definitely. It's amazing.
And for anyone that hasn't worked as a journalist, either on a newspaper or on a magazine like that, how do you choose the content and what will appeal to the most readers?
Okay, so in terms of Society, we know our target market quite well. We know that it's foodies, it's people that go out and about in Aberdeen and they want to know what's going on. And I work with Julia Bryce, who is amazing. Couldn't do it without her. We're a good team, I think. I hope she thinks so too. And she's got brilliant contacts in the food and drink industry, so we work together to fill Society with just basically the best of the Northeast. We get in touch with lots of Northeast producers, Northeast chefs, and obviously we've got really good contacts for our theatre and with APA and whatnot. And yeah, we've got our platforms and we pitch to them and ask them if they'd like to be involved, and thankfully lots of them have.
Absolutely, yeah. Long may that continue. Well, before we come to an end, I mean, in your personal opinion as a successful Northeast journalist, that smile shows you disagree with me, but you clearly are. What do you see as being the key skills that current students and the next generation need for a career in journalism?
So you've got to be really determined, because it is not easy being a news reporter for a start. It's a lot of hard work, but it's so rewarding. So you really have to be determined, and you have to be, like I say, you have to be a people person, because you need to relax people enough that they feel like they can trust you. And trust is a big deal when you're a reporter. If your contacts don't trust you, you've got nothing. So yeah, so you have to be a really friendly person, determined, and trustworthy, but just don't lose hope, because it is a tough job when you start out, but like I say, it's very rewarding, and you get to help a lot of people with your stories, and people really appreciate that, so you do get a lot back from it.
And do you have any other final advice for someone particularly who's looking to come to RGU to follow in your footsteps?
Work experience, absolutely. You obviously sticking at your degree, because it's, that's obviously very important, but work experience, like I say, I would not have my job without it. It's great to have the degree because it gives you a really good grounding, but work experience will give you that extra edge. And if you can make contacts with a media company early doors, then you're winning.
Well, on that, Samantha, it has been such a pleasure to catch up and have you back on campus.
Thank you very much, Johnny.
And that's it for another edition of RGU Talk. On behalf of the university, I'm Johnny Milne, and we will talk to you later.